Welcome to our webinar today. We have one of my favorite people in the entire world, Tayler, joining us today. So Tayler, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited. Like we were talking about beforehand, this is my first webinar in quite a long time, so I'm excited to be back at it.
Well, that is great. So everyone, Tayler joins us from having so much experience in this events and marketing industry, being the previous editor-in-chief of Aisle Planner, also has her own company and is working on another project, Source Co. So she's going to tell you even more about that because I can't even begin to do it justice. But I hope you have your notebooks ready. And because I know I'm going to be taking so many notes throughout this. So let's get down to business because you did not join to hear from me today. So Tayler, take it away.
All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen for everyone because you don't just want to stare at my face all day. Although I did put makeup on. All right, so today we are going to talk about creative and quick ways to build your brand. And I'm really excited to talk about this topic because, you know, as a wedding professional or a creative business owner, there are so many things that you have to do on a daily basis. But if you're anything like me, there are certain things that get kicked down the road pretty often. And I think that paying attention to your brand and really nurturing it is one of those tasks that people decide that it's not super high on their priority list. And they're like, well, I'll get to it tomorrow, or, you know, like I'll write that blog post next week. So today I really wanted to focus in on quick ways that you can continually work to build your brand's presence and reach and reputation, but also creative ways that you can do that. So Megan kicked off my introduction, but I just wanted to, say that it's an absolute pleasure. It's always my pleasure to meet everyone. It's the favorite part of my day every time I get to do that. And so I am a marketing consultant for wedding professionals and businesses. And I am also the co-founder of Source Co. In my former life, I was the marketing director and editor-in-chief at Aisle Planner. And in life, nothing makes me happier than supporting female-driven businesses.
Hey, Tayler, we actually can't see your screen. So try sharing that again. Although the intro was lovely, being able to see your face.
Well, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Well, title slide, just so you see it. And then this is where we left off. Thanks for pointing out the technical difficulties. It doesn't matter if you are a woman in tech or not, you will experience technical difficulties. All right, so building your brand is an everyday thing. And this is because your brand really needs to be nurtured. You know, I use the phrase business baby all the time. And, you know, babies don't just grow up. You don't just get to like have them, leave them, and then turn around and they're like going off to college. There's something that you need to pay a lot of attention to on an everyday basis. And not only is that true because they do need to be nurtured, but it's also because you need to keep your brand top of mind with potential collaborators, potential clients, you know, just all the important eyeballs that you're wanting to get onto your brand. So today we are going to talk about kind of three different buckets of, I use the word bucket all the time, buckets of ideas for you to creatively build your brand, build a strong brand, build a recognizable brand, and do it consistently. And I wanted to start off with Pinterest because, you know, Pinterest is its own search engine, and it's a marketing powerhouse. But it also can do a lot for your brand. And so the first thing that I wanted to kind of throw out there, don't be intimidated by it. It does involve a little bit of code, but installing the Pinterest plugin on your website. And so what I'm talking about is this, and this is my dear friend Christy Johnson from Tulaloon. But what I'm talking about is when you are on her website and I'm currently on her like portfolio page. When you hover over an image, you see that there's a direct connection to Pinterest. So someone who's a potential client or just someone who's looking for wedding inspiration, they come here, they see this like Katie and Keith's wedding, this tablescape is amazing. I really want to save it for later. All they have to do to save it to their own Pinterest is click on it, and it opens up the ability to save it quickly. And so there you go. And then they can save it to whatever board that they've got. And the reason that this is good for your business is, when someone lands on your website and they're inspired by your work, then they can easily pin it on their own Pinterest page. And then from there, we all know that pins can kind of go viral, so to speak. So it's an incredibly passive way for you to build your brand on a daily basis without having to do anything other than installing this plugin. So this is the save button, and here are Pinterest's instructions on how to do that. So if you guys wanted to take a second and screenshot this URL, you guys can come back to that, look through the instructions on how to install this on your website and start taking advantage of it. The next thing that I wanted to kind of touch base on in regards to Pinterest is that this is also a really great space to infuse your brand in what you're pinning. And so I'm going to pull up Christy's Pinterest because she's just like eagle eyes on keeping everything really tight about her brand. But
hey,
and I know her.
Sorry to jump in again, but it looks like you're only sharing the slide, not the website. So it might be that you're sharing, you selected just that slide and not the whole site, because now we're just seeing your slides.
Okay, so many technical difficulties today. I wonder, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
And then find screen share off. Let me try this. Okay, so now can you see the Pinterest page?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, cool. Let's rewind. So because you guys didn't see this and I rambled on about it, here you can see when you hover over Christy's website, you see the Pinterest button. So, whenever someone is super inspired by any of these images, they just have to click in a smaller window. When you're logged into Pinterest, it automatically goes and pulls all of your boards. So they could just easily pick where they want to save it, add a description, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, it's done. And then this is the URL that I want you guys to screenshot with instructions on how to install that button on your own website. And like I said, this is an incredibly passive way for you to have other people essentially build your brand on your behalf. So now I am clicking onto Christy's Pinterest account. And I think even though you guys don't personally know Christy and her brand, but this is a great example of how she's curated her Pinterest account to basically be, she really pays attention to color and mood and texture, and that's what she's most inspired by. So when you scroll through this, even though these are pins that she's saved, you can definitely get a sense of what Christy's style is, how she approaches design, where she finds inspiration. And so this now is just an extension of her brand for, her clients to come and learn a little bit more about her aesthetic, and, how she might be pulling in certain design elements into the mood boards that she's preparing for them. Okay. And I just want to confirm that you guys can see my slides now.
We're still seeing Pinterest.
You're still seeing Pinterest. Okay. So I'm going to have to do this every time I click out. But now I know. Okay, so now you guys should see my slides.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to suggest that you do for building out your brand via Pinterest is to create a template for you to use and reuse when you're pinning your own content onto the platform. And so I wanted to show you a couple examples. So these are templates that Two Bright Lights and the team at Source Code and I use, and then also my friends at LBL Academy. Really specifically, these get used a lot for blog posts and freebies and any sort of offer that you're wanting to give to your audience. And so when you create a template, whether that's in Illustrator or Canva or Photoshop, whatever you're most comfortable in, really what you should be doing is, giving it a spot for the title, and then just making it really easy in regards to the format that you're just dropping in a different photo. So on a daily basis, or however often you're pinning your own content to Pinterest, you pull up your template, you quickly drop in the appropriate photo, you change the title, you save it, and then you're on your way, as opposed to needing to create something from scratch every time. The great thing about having this sort of template set up is what I like to do is, for a blog post, let's say, I create a pin image using the template and link it to the appropriate URL. But then I also just share the image that was used in it as well and do the same thing, link it to the destination URL. And that way, with very little effort, you're getting 2 pins and 2 backlinks to your website without having to do a bunch of extra content creation. So the biggest takeaway here is that Pinterest is a great tool that can not only help you build your brand reach with little effort, but you can use it to build your visual brand portfolio and those all-important backlinks to your website. All right, so now we're going to talk about ways that you can build your brand through your client experience. And so what I want to start off with here, I'm actually going to kind of work backwards with the main takeaway, and then we'll go through some questions. But I want you to think of all of the touch points that you have with your clients and where you could infuse your brand into them. So, from your proposal to, your contracts and your invoices and your project sign-offs, what are the things that you do, or what are the documents and assets that you have that you can brand? And excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, so I have to drink some water. So the first place to start really is during the sales process. And I mean, this is all operating under the assumption that, your website and your social media is already really well branded. But during your sales process, if you're using an online business management program like Honeybook or Dubsado or Aisle Planner, those platforms give you the ability to drop in your logo, which I hope that everyone has done if you're using a platform like that. But in addition to that, you have the opportunity to pull images into your proposals and invoices and things like that. So when you're working through that, make sure that at every touch point, you're reminding your clients, this is my brand aesthetic, this is my brand reputation, and, just make sure that you're presenting it to them. When you're welcoming new clients after they've booked, I always like to send a small gift, even if it's just a thank you card. So stock up on a few actual cards and make sure that you have them on hand and ready to send to people after they've signed a contract with you, after they've made an investment with you. So you can also buy colored envelopes that are within your brand palette to just kind of give it that extra little touch. And then when it comes to the project sign-off or kind of offboarding process that you have with your clients, how are you thanking them for, being great to work with? They're not always great to work with, but they don't need to know that. But, you always want to be sending something to officially close out the project, because your clients are now future references and, kind of unofficial brand ambassadors for you. And so I really like sending, and I'm not going to click through just because I don't want to share and unshare my screen again. But I really like sending greetable gifts to clients. And they actually just launched something called Insider Pro, which is really awesome because it allows you to upload one custom brand pattern and also save templates. So you can go through, create a greetable gift specifically for the purpose of, maybe you want to welcome a client, maybe you want to have one on hand for like client birthdays, and then also for project sign-off. You go through, you create it, you design it, and then you save it as a template. So in the future, it's incredibly quick and easy to, just continually send those out, and in a branded way. Okay, so the last little bucket that I wanted to talk about is my personal favorite, and that's content. And I wanted to start off this conversation more on the PR side of things, because I think this is a space that people forget to take advantage of. So when you are, mapping out your blogging calendar, think of who the other industry experts are that you have relationships with. Even if they're like, a couple degrees of separation, if you have a relationship with someone who is an industry thought leader, there's an opportunity to build your brand through association. And so I used to do this a lot at Aisle Planner because we were publishing an article every single day of the week, and I'm a human and I can't possibly write that much. But so I would take time at the start of every month when I was planning out the content calendar for the coming months. And I would think of, okay, who are the people in my professional network who are industry thought leaders on this topic, or whose work is incredibly inspiring and on point with, like the concept that I'm trying to put together. So, you have your content calendar, you think of those people, and then, like I said, you spend some time every month reaching out to them. I mean, in all honesty, people are not always super quick to get self lead time on this. But if you can collaborate with them on guest posts or have them, fully write it, then when it comes time for you to publish and distribute that content, you're sharing about it, they're sharing about it. And so again, we're building your brand via association. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is curating your grid, which in the wedding and creative industry is kind of standard practice at this point. But when it comes to curating your grid, sometimes you don't have the perfect image in the perfect palette or, for the subject in your portfolio. And so I want to encourage you all in an effort to expedite your content creation, but also do it in a way that builds your brand, is to find a stock photography company that complements your brand so that then you can, get the select images you need to then curate your grid with. And so I wanted to show you these, just a couple screenshots of these two accounts. And Exhale Events and Union Event Co. are both subscribers to Source Code Stock Photography. And I know you guys can't actually raise your hand and tell me which one you think is the stock photo, but my point here is that these snapshots are a mix of photos of them, photos of their clients, photos from their portfolio, and there are stock photos mixed in here. And so I'll point them out because you guys are probably like, which one's a stock photo? So this one right here is a stock photo. This photo right here is a stock photo, and same with this. But you can see that, you know, Stephanie and Nicole and Catherine have been very intentional, and they choose the stock photos that fit within their grid and whatever type of mood they're trying to set. So it's incredibly on brand, but they're not spending excessive amounts of time trying to do this. The other thing is I wanted to show you this great grid snapshot from my friend Taryn at Twinkle and Toast. And she's a very talented stationery designer and calligrapher. And when she went to launch a brand new hand lettering font, she needed something that fit within her grid, but you know, she just straight up didn't have time to design something on her own. So she picked up a couple of our stock graphics, popped her text in there, slid it into her grid, and was good to go. And one of the other things that I think is really fun, and we actually just hosted a workshop to give people here in San Diego the opportunity to do this, is, you know, flat lays are definitely having a moment right now. But, you know, the flat lays that you share on social or, you know, use on your website, they don't always have to be of a wedding invitation and bridal shoes and jewelry. I want you to think about how you can, you know, style a couple flat lays that are really branded to your business, whether that's using your business cards or, you know, information packets, or just coming in and telling a story of what your services are like. You know, someone at the workshop, she works in at a couple wedding venues in Rancho Santa Fe a lot that have, you know, like these great wine collections. So she brought in some corks from her favorite wines and a really cool piece of glassware. And then we styled that up, you know, so that she can go off and like have conversations on social media about, you know, her perspective and her expertise and her brand in general. So, and that's something that you can do, you know, in your own home office. It doesn't have to be with a professional photographer. You can just, you know, style a flat lay, shoot it with your iPhone. You know, maybe you're editing it in, I mean, Pick Tap Go is a great one, or maybe you've got Lightroom on your phone and you've got some presets. But the point here is that not everything has to be a full production in order for you to create on-brand content that actually is going to help you communicate your brand story and be visually on point with the rest of your brand presence. So the takeaway here is to create content that is multifaceted and multi-purpose so that you can kill two birds with one stone, because most of us don't have tons of extra time. So your honey-do list, or that's what my parents call it. So the first one is to install that Pinterest plugin on your website, and then to create a template for you to utilize over and over again on Pinterest. You should have a list of go-to gifts that you can send clients, also cards, you know, little things. And then spend some time styling and shooting branded flat lays. You know, I really like that one because it also is just an opportunity for you to, you know, schedule some creative time and step away from the computer, practice your flat lay styling skills. I think it's good. And then shameless plug, I really do think that you should find a stock photo company that is cohesive and consistent with your brand aesthetic. Pick up a few graphics that complement your brand. And then I also use our styling blocks all the time in creating flat lays for, you know, brand purposes, but also just for, you know, client work. But these are all tools that you can use over and over again to quickly and creatively build your brand. So, and as our gift to you from the ladies at Source Co, you can use the code TBL swag to get these 5 free stock photos and graphics. There's an item in our shop that's just called, Two Bright Lights webinar free images. Disregard the price that you see, just pop in that code, and then you'll be able to download these images for free, and you can use them however you'd like. And then if you ever want to pick up anything in the shop in the future, you can use the code TBLXSC, and that's good for 15% off your purchase at any time. And it doesn't expire, so if 3 months down the road you want to pick something up, go ahead and grab it. And like I said, I love nothing more than connecting with wedding and creative professionals. And so I would love to connect with you. And these are the places on the internet that you can find me. So go ahead and give me a follow, and I will keep in touch with you. And I am going to stop sharing now. Bring Megan's face back up on the screen as well.
Hello. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Thank you. I'm floored by some of those stock photos with real people in them. It's like, to me, that's not stock photos. So it's such a great option.
Yeah, the hands, and spoiler alert, the hands in the model in source code stock photos is usually me, which is kind of ironic because I'm a rock climber, and rock climbers aren't known for having the nicest hands, but I managed to pretty them up enough for being camera ready.
I love it. That's amazing. Awesome. So we've received a couple questions, so we're going to go through those. But anybody who has questions, throw them in the chat and we will make sure we get to them. So the first one is from Faye. Very excited about the question. I think it's really important, and I'm so happy that she thinks it's important too. And this was in reference to using images on Pinterest. She said, is there a way to credit the photographer? As a planner, I don't often use my own photos.
Yeah. So when you are pinning your own content onto Pinterest, you're putting in a title for the image, a URL, you're picking your board, but there's also that area for a description. And so that's where honestly, I think that's the only place that you have the ability to do that. So go ahead and, type in the description about the image that includes all of the, keywords and descriptors that would help someone find it. And then just at the end of that, you can say photography by, and then put the photographer's name. The slightly unfortunate thing is that you can't link to the photographer, but at least you're including the photographer's name in that description. So if someone is curious about who shot it, that they can easily find it, just copy it, drop it into a Google search, and find the photographer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes too, if you can even put an image credit on the photo,
that's true.
Corner. That's another option. But I love that you asked that question. I think that it's so important because we need to make sure we are honoring the copyrights of the owners of the photo. So,
yep.
Great question.
Yeah.
So the next one from Kristen. As a photographer, do you think stock photos are acceptable to use? I really feel like everything on my grid should be my own image.
That's a question that we get from just creative professionals in general all the time. And while you should first and foremost be showcasing your portfolio, sometimes there are conversations that you're wanting to have with potential customers where you don't have the right image. Specifically, I work overwhelmingly with wedding industry professionals, so my example is going to fall back on that. But when you're at a wedding, your job, the reason you were hired and the reason you're getting paid is to capture a wedding for a couple, to help them build their first family heirloom, so to speak. But then when you're going and you're trying to market your business, sometimes you didn't shoot a setup with the appropriate amount of white space for you to drop copy on or things like that. So those are the instances where, stock photography, or at least what our approach is, those are the instances that we really want to become a resource for you. We do a lot of photos that are not full tablescapes, that are a lot of times just floral textures. So that's not something that would be indicative of the quality of your work, right? You're showcasing your entire portfolio on your Instagram grid or your website or whatever. So, I mean, we take that to heart when we create things. And so, I mean, the other thing that we have available, and not everyone is comfortable using stock photos, and that's like totally fine, right? Like no one's forcing anyone to utilize a resource that they're not comfortable with. So in addition to having stock photos, we have tons of stock graphics and patterns. So if you wanted to break up your feed with a different color palette, or you're transitioning from spring into summer and you don't have like those perfect couple photos to help you do that, we've got tons of just patterns and illustrations for you to use. So, we're always wanting to be super flexible because we know that the needs of photographers and planners and stationery designers and creative professionals in general, like every day is an adventure. And so we're trying to be as flexible as possible to support you guys in doing everything that you need to do.
Well, that's great. So keeping on that like photo side of things. Mm-hmm. So Faye asks, should we ever post iPhone photos on Instagram or only use quality professional photos or stock photos?
So this is personal preference, right? I mean, if you have a good modern phone, I mean, like I used to be rolling around with like an iPhone 6 that took really crappy photos. So for clients, I never was comfortable sharing images that I shot on my phone because it just wasn't high quality enough. But the cameras on phones nowadays are incredibly powerful. And especially if you're dropping them into, like I said, Lightroom or some sort of photo editing app on your phone. I mean, they're not going to have like the grandness of something that you can capture with a full body camera or, on film, but, you can edit them and shoot them in a way that fits within the rest of it. So, I mean, there are some people that like really lean on their iPhones for their photography. And then there are some people that I know that exclusively are like, no, professional photos only. But it really is dependent on your brand and your goals. When it comes to stock photos, I definitely would never say that only posting stock photos is a good thing. Like they're there as a tool to complement your portfolio and to be something that you lean on when you need it. But that's the one thing that I would say is a no-no, is only posting stock photos.
I think that's a great point. Okay, so a Pinterest question. When posting a new pin, is it more important to make the title caption keywords to make the pin easily found, or more important to give a more comprehensive caption about the photo?
Everything. Photos will process, as I say all the time, all of the things. So Pinterest is at its core, it's a search engine. And so with search engines, your keywords need to be placed in certain places in order for it to identify and then serve what you've put up there. So the keyword needs to be in the title, in the description, in the URL that you're linking back to ideally. And I mean, really, I don't want people to freak out, but like also the name of the board that you're pinning it to. So again, because my head is always in the world of weddings, wedding planners and photographers should have like wedding inspiration, right? Like that's a master keyword. You can have different descriptors. So it could be like spring wedding inspiration or summer wedding inspiration, classic wedding inspiration, whatever, permutation of that keyword you want to use. But, and also it should be in the file name. Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm sliding down it really fast. But so yeah, basically everywhere that you can put it, you should. And that's how you successfully share your content and make it discoverable on such a huge platform. And in this case, because it is such a huge platform, making sure that you know your brand's niche, whether it's your brand's niche or the niche that your services or products fit into, that's really going to help you, be discoverable on such a huge. I mean, Pinterest is like, I don't even know the numbers of how many pins a day or like how many searches happen, but it's probably something ridiculous. So when you think of terms of like that volume that you're up against, so to speak, you really need to know exactly what your goal is.
So Cassie just asked a question, and she absolutely read my mind because I was going to ask this. What about hashtags in Pinterest?
Hashtags
those a good practice?
Yeah, that's a thing now. It used to not be a thing.
Hashtags are everywhere.
They're everywhere. So Pinterest is changing just like, excuse me, every other platform, right? Their algorithm changes. I mean, to be honest, like now that they've started putting the like monthly views that your account gets front and center, it's like, I see it. Like I'll be doing the same, and I would never claim to be like a Pinterest expert, but I use it every day and I try my very damnedest to make sure that I'm up to date with what's going on there. But I mean, like I can be doing the same thing and it's like, it's working. And then all of a sudden,
oh yeah,
all of the views
all in there.
you're just like, okay, what changed? So I don't remember, and I don't know when exactly they changed this, but hashtags are now a thing on Pinterest. I definitely have seen success in the pins and the, like the team at SourceCo and I, and, other client accounts that I manage, the pins that I use hashtags on in this moment are better performing than the ones that don't. So, it's a few more keystrokes. You might as well do it. It's not going to hurt anyone. So, like just add it to your your toolbox of tools that you have to work with on a daily basis.
Makes sense. All the things.
Oh, todas las cosas. If anyone speaks, like preliminary Spanish, 9th grade level Spanish.
Oh my gosh. So we've had a couple questions about like Greetable that you mentioned and the Pinterest plugin you mentioned. So what we'll do is we'll send an email out after with the links to all those resources. Also, if you have not seen the blog post that Tayler wrote that's on the Two Bright Lights blog, check it out. We'll include that in the email too. But it has so many great points in it, so you don't want to miss it. All right. So Faye asked a question. Can you provide some practical examples of how to benefit or build your brand from vendor relationships? This is such a good question because there's so many.
Yeah. Yep. So like I said, this was something that I did at Aisle Planner all the time. And so one of the, and just because of how my mind works, I like to create categories or buckets of things. So yeah, all the buckets to put all of the content in. So one of the things that I created was a featured wedding planner. So every month, that was what I started with. I would feature a different wedding planner and I'd send him or her an interview. They'd complete it. They'd send me some images so that I could, spam the internet with them. But that was the goal there was, and I was doing it with wedding planners who were using the Aisle Planner platform. And so the value add for Aisle Planner was that it was social proof that these great planners with these great portfolios and great businesses were using that platform, and it was a benefit to their business. At SourceCo, we actually pull collaborators. We've started pulling collaborators into our collections. And like the collection that's live this month, we collaborated with 4 wedding industry creatives. Sarah K. Love, who was at The Knot for 5 years, and is a fantastic art director. Rachel Lungi from Siren Floral Co., who's just like the most boho, salt of the earth florist who has like the most amazing floral skills. We also collaborated with Heather Hosch from LVL Weddings, and then Taryn Sutherland from Twinkle and Toast. And so we went and, these 4 ladies created these color palettes for us to then go and style collections off of. And again, it's social proof. It's like legitimizing our brand because like these really cool and successful business women thought that it was worth their time to collaborate with us. So, whatever types of vendor relationships you have, if you have the pleasure of working with a photographer who's, you know, more established and just is like blowing up. Or same thing with florists or planners, you know, whatever that is, you know, we're all in this together. And in the age of the internet and digital marketing, it is truly a web of connection. And so you just want to make those degrees of separation tangible ones. Also, like, SEO nerd moment here. If you're collaborating with someone who, you know, who has a website that has, you know, been a successful one for quite a long time, basically has a lot of what we call domain authority. If they link to your website, that carries more weight, you know, when Google's going through and looking at it. So like, oh, well, this very legitimate, you know, website that, you know, we've already inspected and trust is pointing to this one that might not be as new or established, but that connection means something in the world of the internet. That's also why Pinterest is such a huge, I mean, that's not a vendor relationship, but it's also why Pinterest is such a huge platform that everyone wants to be associated with, because Pinterest is a behemoth of a domain. And so, you know, when you're associating your business with Pinterest.com, that's a good thing for you.
Yeah. And I think that is a perfect segue into our last question. So Alicia asked, is it more important to share others' pins or create your own?
I actually don't know the black and white answer to it. But the current strategy that we're using at Sourced on Pinterest is within each of our boards, we are doing a combination of the two. And that's what we've been finding success with at the moment. So Christy Tulaloon, whose Pinterest I was showing you, she's one of my business partners there. And Cassie, who was asking about hashtags, I'm like, oh, that's Cassie, feeding us questions about hashtags on Pinterest. So what they do is Christy goes in and she just curates the coolest stuff that she can find on, you know, Pinterest as a whole. And she's doing her thing, just repinning other people's stuff. And then Cassie comes in, and her task and responsibility is to infuse pins that link back to us that she's creating within those same boards. So Christy creates something like, you know, blush color tones or like blush pink color tones. And she's curating stuff, repinning, doing her thing. And then Cassie is pulling from our collections of stock photography and pinning those into that same space. So I don't have the exact answer, but that's the strategy that we've been employing for our business and that has been working well for us.
There's no shortage of things to do.
There's no shortage. But, you know, there's no shortage, but you know, you do have to pay attention to your brand on a daily basis. And, you know, even if you only have time to like repin 5 pins for the day, right? Like go on there, spend that 30 seconds repinning stuff, you know, make sure that when you're taking the time to actually plan out your Instagram grid, that you're being intentional with it. Like part of the quickness in what I was talking about today is better utilizing the time you're already spending working on your business, right? So you're already planning, well, I'm not going to make the assumption that everyone's planning out their Instagram grid, but you should spend 30 minutes a week planning out, even if it's just the photos that you're going to post, and then add a layer of strategy to that. And then that's how you're cutting down the total time that you're having to spend on building your brand. So, and really just don't be afraid to lean on people, places, things when you need to, because we're all human and we can't actually do todos los cosas. We want to, but we can't actually.
We totally want to. I swear every single time I talk to Taylor, my to-do list gets like 8 miles longer. So I would not be surprised if all of you have a mile-long to-do list at this point too. So
sorry, not sorry. Welcome. Sorry, not sorry. You know, I mean, these are all things that like this is a phrase in technology, but I eat my own dog food, right? Like I do the things that I talk about. I'm just not like saying, you know, omnipotently that these are good for your business. Like these are the things that I do for my clients, that I do for my own businesses. Building a brand is hard work, and I'm in the trenches with you guys. Like this is what I do, and it's what I stress over. I have like, you know, great days over, and what sometimes I'm like, what? But you know, these are things that you can actually do, and that an actual human and team of really badass ladies is doing to build their own, you know, business baby. So
I love it.
Not pie in the sky stuff. Not pie in the sky stuff. Like hardcore, realistic. Like let's do the hard work.
We are all in this together, and that could not be more true. You know, no matter what people look like on the outside, as we all know, they look like they have it so together. Odds are they have the same struggles that you do, and that we do, and everybody does every single day. So go follow Tayler. Check out SourceCo. We'll send you all of the links afterwards. But we're so glad you're here today. And Tayler, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone for taking the time out of your busy day to tune in and listen to some ideas.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.